I'm trying to figure out how to get this. Oh, go live. There we go. All right, welcome to Startup Hack. It looks like it says that we're live, so let's see how this works. Yep. All right, looks like we are actually live. So, this is all new to me. Nobody's on yet, so that's even more weird about this. But I'm going to just dive in and kind of start talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is how much I despise Scrum. Now, I despise Scrum because I despise Scrum for a lot of reasons. But let me dig in and talk about some of my few favorite things that I hate about Scrum. And I mean favorite as in things that I hate about Scrum. So Scrum is just relentless. It constantly is it's a constant grind. I mean, it's called sprints, right? Scrum is always divided up into 2-week sprints, 1 to 2 week sprints. Sometimes they'll be a little bit longer. But that's the whole problem to it, is that you're constantly sprinting. So if you were to tell an athlete who runs a marathon, hey, you're going to sprint 24/7, like, you'll get exhausted. And so that's really one of the first things I hate about Scrum is how much it's a constant sprint. Every single week you're in a sprint, and there's never any relax, right? You don't go for like, okay, well, it's a sprint, and then there's a week off or something. I mean, even that is, and I'll talk a little more about that later, is even taking time off during a sprint damages the team. And so because of that, it really harms the team over time too. So it's just so relentless. And that's one of the things I hate about it. Next thing I hate about it, and I am reading from some notes here, but Scrum puts way too much onto one person. And I think that person that it always puts too much onto is the product manager or product owner. Every org I've been in, they're a little different, right? Some organizations call them a product manager, some call them a product owner, but I've never loved the fact that this product owner or product manager can totally derail a whole team. So, tell you a little story. I was at a company. We had it was a very functional company, and so they ran Scrum to the T, meaning that ran Scrum to a team, just meaning that you were, they had every one of the different roles, and every one of the roles was really, was filled. So we had a product manager, we had a product owner, we had all those different roles, and as you worked through these different roles, so I had a team of, we actually had split the team into 2 different development teams. So I had a dev lead, development lead, as well as myself as the product manager, and then we had a product owner and a product manager. And the thing about it is that ultimately at the end of the day, they could dictate and even kind of veto whether we could work on something or not. And so even though if it was obvious to absolutely everybody in the room that we should have been working on something, to them they had the ability to strike things and say, nope, we're not going to use that. So it's that's one of the things that I really don't love about Scrum, is just that it puts way too much weight onto that one person where they would be able to veto anything. The other thing about it is that it kills innovation, because if the product manager or product owner didn't think about it, it's very difficult for a developer to be able to bubble up through all the layers that go into planning and story writing and all of these different things that go into those sprints and the cycles and everything that happens with Scrum. So, and by the way, if you're joining and you want to leave a comment, what we're talking about is why we hate Scrum. And I know it's Friday afternoon, and so as a developer on a Friday afternoon, can't tell you how many times I've been sitting there in the middle of a sprint thinking, oh, I should get all this stuff done, but I'm just kind of clocking some hours, keeping the keyboard busy, right, so that I don't show away on Teams. And so anyways, Friday afternoons are like quintessential time that developers do not want to be at work, but they're there because they have to, because heaven forbid they don't meet their Scrum goals or their sprint goals. So anyways, I was talking about how Scrum really can kill innovation, but by putting way too much responsibility onto the product owner or the product manager. When you work with just the product owner or the product manager, it really allows them to be the only one to really dictate whether something's going into a sprint or not. And so, anyways, on a Friday afternoon, if you want to bash on Scrum, throw your comments down there into the comments, because I love to hear your comments, about the reasons that you hate Scrum. So let's keep going here. One of the things that I hate about Scrum And it's every time you go to a Scrum coach and you start talking about, oh, well, our sprints aren't working or this isn't working, it's always because you're not doing Scrum correctly. So Scrum fails, whenever Scrum fails, it's because you're not doing it correctly. Man, I can't stand that. Because one of the things I love, and so as I do run a software consulting firm. So Startup Hack is actually a software consulting firm as well as the coding boot camp. So it's actually a two-sided business. We build software for people, and then I train software developers, and then flip them over to the consulting side so that they can help us to help companies build software. So I love that, and we use Kanban. I'm a huge fan of Kanban. Kanban came from Toyota, which actually used it in their assembly lines. And if you think about software as more of an assembly line, but also with part of an assembly line is also the fact that there's engineering that goes into a new car or a new something that's being built. So I really like Kanban, but one of the things that I love about Kanban is that Kanban is flexible to every organization. And one of the things that Kanban teaches is it actually adheres back to your actual agile principles. So your agile manifesto says individuals and interactions over process and tools. And I really like that. It's one of the very first manifestos of agile. And I believe Kanban's a lot more true to that. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Part of Scrum is that it's like, man, you just get beat on a lot of that. And so a lot of times, hey, this thing isn't working. I may not make it into the 2-week sprint. Okay, great. Just get it working, right? Customer collaboration over contract negotiation, another one of the Agile manifestos. And that also came because people were fed up with Scrum because they had made this contract that they were going to deliver this within this sprint, and it just kills innovation. Next manifesto is responding to change over following a plan. So again, just because you agreed to do this development piece during this 2-week sprint in Scrum, that becomes gospel and law. And you can't go away from that. And so I really like Kanban because it's more flexible. You pick up a story, when it's done, you're done. When it's done, you grab the next one, and you just keep working. But it allows you to be able to be innovative and to still drive innovation from the developer up, which, surprise, the developer is the one who knows technology better than the product folks. I hate to say it, but it is true. The guy is actually building the technology. And I think we've seen this over and over again with startups, right? You see this in startups because they don't come out of the box running Scrum, because that would never work in a startup environment. And so when you see the stories about Facebook's success, about Apple's original growth, or you see all of these, pretty much you can take any startup, you're going to see some of the principles of Agile go true, and you're not going to see Scrum. Next one that I hate. Most Scrum Masters struggle in their role. I've been a Scrum Master, twice certified Scrum Master. I hate, and it's difficult. Being a Scrum Master is an extremely difficult role because at the end of the day, it's almost impossible. Your job to be perfect at a Scrum Master is almost impossible, and very few are trained correctly. So in the end, you're just repeating some dogma, and you're being very inflexible because you can't be flexible, because otherwise, back to my previous point, if something's failing, it's because you're not doing Scrum right. So it's super circular because Scrum's failing because you're not doing Scrum right, but then you kind of see my point. All right, next one, the reason I hate Scrum, it's extremely difficult to scale. You get multiple teams, and then you have to choose some different type of framework to try to then figure out how to make Scrum work, right? So you get Scrum of Scrums, you get less, or Scrum at scale, or SAFe. One of my biggest things about SAFe is the last organization that tried to implement SAFe. It requires you to do these huge meetings where everybody went together and would spend these entire days, once every, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks, kind of depending on how you implemented SAFe. And so you have this whole engineering team attending this 1 to 2 day meeting, or these series of meetings, in order to do SAFe correctly, because otherwise you're not doing Scrum correctly, right? In order to do this, and I one time calculated this at the last company that I did this at, and I calculated that these meetings cost roughly about $500,000 a day, or for these 2 day meetings. Like, there better be some real serious value coming out of these, and frankly, there just wasn't. And so one of the big reasons I can't stand Scrum is just because it doesn't scale. you get more than one team, there's no way that Scrum really works, because otherwise, if Team A is waiting for Team B and they need to be able to both deliver, then you have to make this sprint to be able to run, then they deliver something, then this sprint. Like instead, whereas if you just had a Kanban between the two teams, if it was done in 3 days and deployed to production, then great. The next team pick it up and run. Otherwise, there's no way with 2-week or 4-week iterations to say, hey, this thing was done in the middle of a sprint. So if you want to get one thing done between two teams and you have a 2-week sprint, that means at minimum it's going to take 4 weeks to get that thing delivered. See how broken that is? Whereas this thing could have been done in 2 days, flipped over the wall. The next team could have done it in 2 days, could have been in production in a week. So that's just like one very real world example of why I can't stand Scrum. Now, the whole idea of Scrum, and I love this, the whole idea of Scrum comes from a term from rugby, right? They throw the football in the middle and everybody like wrestles for this football. And it's that, think of a picture of a Scrum team, and that's how disorganized some of these can be. And so I definitely don't love Scrum for that very reason, because that's kind of what it feels like to me. I'm a big fan of Kanban. I really like following boards, and so don't think that this doesn't mean that I'm a fan of stand-ups. I think stand-ups are very invaluable. I think that running boards with stories through the different swim lanes and everything that you do with Kanban really makes sense. The last 4 teams that I've built, we've used Azure and used Azure DevOps. And so I'm a very big fan of agile methodologies, using CI/CD to do deployments, and then using stories to be tracking all of it through. I think it's really important to do it that way. So really, I put out a post, and part of the idea for why I chose to do this topic is because I put a post out, and I got 2 responses. We're hoping to grow that, right? But I got some responses, and those responses said, hey, they'd love to come in and bash on Scrum. So on a Friday afternoon like this, if you're really frustrated, which I'm guessing you probably are, leave a comment down below, because I'd love to chat with you. If you leave a comment, I'll see it, and I'll definitely talk about it here. I'm going to try to set these up and start doing these every Friday. I'll probably rotate on some topics and things that we talk through. And I'm sure for non-technical people who don't have to do Scrum, this is probably a really boring topic. So I don't know, we'll probably find something else. But at the same time, this is the stuff that we do. Here at Startup Hack, we love to build software. We love to train software developers, and we love to build award-winning software. And so I really like to work with people to help them learn that building software doesn't have to be impossible, and that you can become something that everybody can do. So make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a ton. I'll be posting this afterwards, so if you missed it this week, we're going to be 2 p.m. Pacific time every Friday. Depending on how many people we get to show up, I may go a little longer. But ultimately, today we were talking about why I hate Scrum. And, so let me know and leave your thoughts in the comments, even if you were watching this after the fact. And I like to reply back to people and get back to them soon. So until next time, we'll catch you guys later. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.